Hi, my name is Kristen Devaney. I'm an attorney with Key Shapiro and Ford, and I wanted to give a little bit of a rundown on service when it comes to matrimonial cases, because service can be one of the most important things that have to occur before we can take the next steps in a divorce. And sometimes a spouse does not know where the other spouse resides, and therefore we have a little bit of an uphill battle, I suppose, when it comes to service, because we have to convince the court that the other spouse has received adequate notice of the divorce proceeding before we can go forward. So any divorce commences with a summons and verified complaint. The law is that we have to personally serve that summons and verified complaint or a summons with notice on the other side. If we cannot find the other spouse, we have to do our due diligence by online searches in order to figure out what perhaps their last known address is so that we can find them. If we still cannot find them after I have done my searches, we can ask the court for an alternative service method, which would be service on a family member who we can find in the New York area, a friend. Sometimes the court will accept service through social media accounts. So if we can find the person on Facebook or Instagram, there is case law that allows us to serve via that mechanism. We would have to go to the court in order to show them that we need permission to do this alternative method of service. At the end of the day, if we still can't find the person, then we would need to ask that service be done through publication. Which is probably a very archaic method of providing notice, but that is the end game, I suppose. The court will not allow a divorce proceeding to take the next steps without adequate service. It's really important that the court is convinced that the other spouse has reasonable notice of the divorce proceeding before we can move forward. If the other spouse is in an outside country, outside of the United States, so if the spouse is in El Salvador or Afghanistan, how can we reasonably predict that that person is going to receive notice of the proceeding? There's various mechanisms. Usually we find a family member here in the United States that we can convince the court that they would be able to provide notice to that spouse even though they're not in this country. Like I said, the court will not let us proceed without proper service, whether that's personal service very simply, which people take for granted, or it's some form of litigation by requesting permission from the court to do an alternative method of service.